To say Michael van Gerwen has a hold over Simon Whitlock would be something of an understatement. Of their 39 previous meetings, Whitlock has won just 5. Van Gerwen has won the last 14 in a sequence stretching all the way back to their quarter-final at the World Grand Prix in October of 2016. Pro Tour, Euro Tour, World Series, Premier League, TV majors, you name it, Van Gerwen tends to boss things when these two collide, and given the manner of his 7-1 win over the world number 2 Rob Cross in their semi-final, there's every suggestion that he'll inflict yet more damage on the Australian. Van Gerwen eyeing Euro Tour title number 30, Whitlock eyeing Euro Tour title number 2. Whitlock the overwhelming favourite to come out on top in this one once again. Rob Malarkey in the chair for the final of the German Darts Grand Prix. Paul Nicholson alongside me.
Yeah, the signs aren't great for Simon, and he's got to believe.
First leg, Simon to throw first. Game on.
And he's also got to hope that Michael comes back towards his sort of standard in this tournament. And I want to see Simon compete in this game. I really do. He showed really good steel and grit and determination to get to this stage. If, and I see a big if Michael just regresses a little bit, Simon's got a chance. But if Michael does what he does in finals usually, which is usually playing his best out of the whole weekend, and I think Simon may be losing this final. But time will tell.
Well, he has dodged a bullet, so to speak, this evening, or today, in terms of his quarter-final against Ted Everts. Van Gerwen didn't mince his words when he was asked to assess that performance. He came through 6-5 against the 21-year-old from Warwickshire.
96.
But then it was a very different story against Rob Cross in the semi-final itself. A tournament's average so far for Van Gerwen of 97.8.
126.
He's got superior checkout figures as well, 25 from 48 so far, just over 52%. And a high checkout of 146.
Michael, you require 148.
Is bossing all those statistical brackets as well.
100. Simon, you require
it's an early chance
108.
for Whitlock, and these are the kind of shots he needs to take. 4 19s, can't afford to do that. Cannot afford to miss the minimum of a 19 in that shot.
Break of throw on the cards here for Van Gerwen. 2 darts at tops, only needs the 1.
Michael Van Gerwen.
Dominant start, 14
Second
dart
leg,
start.
Michael to throw first. Game on.
Noticed as well, I don't know whether it's something that Michael has always done, but maybe when he gets a little bit edgy, a little bit nervous, he just feels like he needs to grit his teeth. He tends to bite his bottom lip. He used to keep his mouth very wide when he was throwing, almost like a fish's mouth.
108.
He doesn't do that anymore.
Whitlock's flights have been all over the place today.
Well, one thing that Simon does more than anything else is change his stems.
80.
Now, recently he's changed his stems and his flights to a different colour, maybe a different thickness, but he's a stem master. He knows everything and anything about stems. And he's got these things just under the top of the stems that just
119.
tighten up the prongs. And maybe he's just tweaked one of them and isn't willing to change it because it's worked so far.
177.
4 times these two have actually met in finals, and one of those was on the European Tour way back in 2013 in the final of the European Darts Open. Van Gerwen winning that one by 6 legs to 2. You just, wherever you turn and whichever set of statistics you look to, you just feel the wizard will need to conjure up his finest sorcery to win a first Euro Tour title since 2012 tonight.
Treble 18 needed. It's an unconventional route for that. But again, it's a very doable out, which he needed to take. And he shouldn't be getting another shot. And isn't.
8 and tops once again for Van Gerwen. Second leg in succession. Carbon copy.
Absolutely right. Well, since that European Tour victory back in 2012 at the Dutch Darts Masters, he's He's been in a string of finals on the European Tour and he hasn't won any of them.
123.
Yeah, he was in a couple last year. Risa against Gerwen Price. Lost that one 8-3 and lost 8-3 to Suljevic in Denmark as well.
47.
Once again, the flights to the left-hand side. It's slowing Van Gerwen down ever so slightly, but he won't mind too much about that.
140.
He wants that 30th title for his 30th birthday.
I don't think he was aware of that until it was pointed out to him following his quarter-final.
Yeah, that's right. He looked shocked. I think he's won for his own records and things like that, but he didn't know that it was the 30th potential title today on the European Tour. And since then, he's played outstanding.
It's funny as well, actually, because I remember speaking to him in Gibraltar and I pointed out that he was on the verge of winning 25 Euro Tour titles and he just didn't have a clue.
4 for double top. It's working in this game.
84.
Not on this occasion. And the thing that's different in leg 3 here is that Whitlock is not on a doable out. He's not on an out full stop. So Van Gerwen is stretching his legs here.
44. Likely required 20.
Double 10 then. No problem.
From the
And
third
a
leg,
13
Michael
darter
Van Gerwen.
to add to 2 14s. That average is getting higher.
Game on.
Well, I said at the outset that Van Gerwen has this hold over Simon Whitlock. He's won their last 14 matches in this astonishing sequence, and there have been a couple of whitewashes in amongst those 14, by the way. One of them, the World Series Finals quarter-final, 10-0
57.
and 6-0 when they met in the semi-finals of the German Darts Grand Prix 2 years ago.
You won't be the first or the last to get
140.
donutted by MVG. I remember a game these two played. It was a very large exhibition in Australia at Etihad Stadium in Melbourne. And
58.
they had half the stadium full of fans. It's a brilliant gig. And MVG played Simon in the final, and they both
125.
averaged over 100 outside. A remarkable achievement from both players.
Terrific stuff.
83.
Well, Whitlock
Likely
could do with figures like that tonight.
137.
Well, MVG is on the cusp of maybe a 137.
Oh, tops,
And
tops.
again,
Game from the fourth leg.
Well,
Michael
Dan
Van Gerwen.
Dawson asked the question recently, didn't he? Is there anything this man can't do on a dartboard? And there's another illustration of exactly what he can do. A 137 checkout on tops, and that is an absolute hammer blow for Simon Whitlock.
about 70 seconds ago, I said the average is climbing. Well, it was 14, 14, 13, 12, I believe. And he started with a 174. The message is on Rob Malarkey. I did say he needed to do 2 174s and a 153. It's on.
133.
Yeah, this all stems back to a mini conversation we had earlier in the week, but it won't happen on this occasion anyway.
93.
I just wonder whether he'll conjure up an average of 130.30. He's not far away, you know.
64.
Well,
He is motoring at the moment. 4 out of 5 on his checkout so far. Every visit has been very confident, very assured.
one of the records he doesn't have is the European Tour average record. That belongs to Dave Chisnell.
It does.
118.66.
From Hildesheim at the start of, was it the start of last year or the end of the year?
Start of
before?
September
Yeah.
against Mark Webster, yeah.
100.
If he wants that record, he might have to pop this 102 darts.
He's on course.
From the fifth leg.
He is on course. He's scoring heavily and he's finishing very, very well indeed. And all eyes on the numbers, because I tell you what, looking at the legs there, 5-0, take your eyes off those, because I think this is a foregone conclusion now. Back-to-back 14s, the 11 darter for 5-0. It's a procession here by the world number one.
Aside from that 28 start. He'll probably go 180 here and cancel it out.
I tell you what, Ted Everts will be watching this though maybe, and he'll be thinking to himself, well, Rob Cross took 1 leg off him, Whitlock's not got 1 on the board yet, I got 5.
Yeah.
I mean, put that into some perspective, that will give him a lot of encouragement moving forward.
Too right. And it should. Ted played very well in the quarterfinals.
105.
Whitlock is just being punched many, many times over by Van Gerwen here.
57.
But here is a chance for Whitlock to get on the board and potentially start a charge. He needs to get this leg. The worst possible feeling, and I can say from experience in a final, is when you are being absolutely battered. Happened to me in Benidorm a few years ago when I was playing Justin Pipe. I had an exceptionally good semi against Magnus Carus. Then Justin Pipe just destroyed me. 6-0 in the final. I felt very small.
Can I just point something else out as well? I mean, I said earlier that wherever you turn with Van Gerwen, you can just find these mind-numbing statistics that just illustrate how great a force he is. Okay, he's on the cusp of 30 European Tour titles. 10 of them,
40.
a third of them, have come since the start of last year.
Simon, you require 150.
8 last year, 1 so far this year. Now then.
I am laughing when I see that, going bull first on 150.
Well, he might as well, because he needs just to try and pull off something flamboyant.
Yeah, sometimes you have to do the exhibition type stuff just to relax you.
Get the crowd going.
Absolutely.
Get them involved, because there is a bit of a lull here, and they're praying that Whitlock gets a leg on the board, and he has done. He has avoided the whitewash, and they acknowledge that, and that's a nice touch from Whitlock. He's clearly accepting he's in a spot of bother here, but a rueful look on the face of Michael Van Gerwen as he lets one slip. He didn't like that.
He wanted to win 8-0. Don't you ever doubt that.
But he'll find something else now to work with.
125.
He will find another way. And there usually is another way. There usually is an alternative for Michael Van Gerwen when he's in this frame of mind. Of course, there is the potential objective of the highest average in a Euro Tour final. But we'll talk about that in due course.
I think he has 57. That, doesn't he? Against Mervyn King, was it?
I was thinking about the Anderson match as well in Hildesheim. I'll have to just quickly double check that.
One of those two, they were outstanding matches. Regardless of what happens in this final, and we do hope that Simon gets a bit further into it with darts like that, but this performance to get to this final is going to do wonders for his seeding predicament. It's really going to help him.
140.
Every possibility by getting to this final that for the next batch of qualifiers, he may not have to go to them. We'll check those statistics in the coming days going to Saarbrücken, where Simon will also play it. The 180 from MVG to leave 29, just to pressurise and get the crowd involved on Simon's 46, but to get a second leg, here he goes for 6 and tops, or that for double 18.
Second leg on the board for Simon Whitlock. 5-0 becomes 5-2, and maybe, just maybe, Van Gerwen will not be thinking about the averages here. It may just be a case of getting the job done. It was the final in Hildesheim against Gary Anderson. Van Gerwen with an average of 117.94. That was in 2015. That's the highest we've ever seen in a final on the European Tour. And it was in Hildesheim where Chizzy got his 118.66. That's why Hildesheim's the spiritual home of European Tour darts, Paul.
I've got to admit that Hildesheim is a great place to play. And statistics don't lie.
Anyway, it's 109.55 at the moment. Well, it's just crept up after that 180 to 111.
78.
Most players who would be gracing a final would feel tense, but this is just normality for MVG.
40.
Hit the wall again, Whitlock.
103.
No scoring boots in this leg. No shot at double 12 for MVG,
87.
but he has laid up perfectly. For yet another 13 dart leg. I think the crowd have lost their voice a little bit after losing Max Hopp from this tournament.
Yeah, losing Max Hopp to Simon Whitlock.
Games from the 8th leg, Michael van Gerwen.
Now in yesteryear, 6-2 would have been enough for Van Gerwen, but he needs
9th
two
leg,
more.
Simon to throw first.
Best of 15
Game
in
on.
these Euro Tour finals.
Yeah, MVG will be earmarking this victory as a reward, and he will not travel to Pro Tours in the UK as a reward. It'll give him a weekend off. That's how he looks at things these days.
Yeah, it's all about schedule management, I think, with Van Gerwen at times. It's a great position to be in, but he's
85.
worked hard to get himself into that position.
Yeah. Phil Taylor, when he was world #1 forever, he never played every week. He always just picked an event here and went to all the majors, and he managed his time
140.
better than anybody ever has. Michael is starting to do that as well. I think Rob Cross is starting to learn that. He's had a couple of weekends off, and the more he plays like he has in the last few months, the more weekends he will pick and choose. But these European tours are so vital when you're a seed that you won't miss these ones. Great darts from Van Gerwen.
171.
Irrelevant though, Whitlock,
120.
stranglehold on leg 9.
Yes, and maybe he is on course for 3 legs in the final, and maybe even more.
Yeah, you mentioned he got 3 legs in his last 2 finals.
Well, we'd be doing Whitlock a disservice, because if he does win this leg, it may well act as a further springboard. 5-0 down. 5-0 becomes 6-3, so he's on the verge, or he has won now 3 of the last 4 legs, and that's just a bit of momentum for Simon Whitlock now.
If you can do that again, he'd be 7-6 down and in with a chance. I think he still believes.
He's got every reason to believe. I think he's weathered the storm, and I think there's a lot to be said as well. Van Gerwen had a lot of rest time in between his semi-final. He finished off Rob Cross fairly swiftly. Whitlock was then involved in a semi-final that went the distance with Max Hopp, so Van Gerwen was able to rest up, and I thought it was almost inevitable that he would come out all guns blazing. But having weathered that initial storm, Whitlock is
98.
certainly involved. He's got a foothold in this final now.
There have been occasions in the past, and he's going to have to go to 18s here. That one was dangling. There have been occasions where MVG has faltered at the finish, has allowed people back into games, but it's very rare.
125. Michael, you require 130.
Well, if there is a slip-up, there is a chance.
94.
And that leaves double 18 for Van Gerwen.
Well, he couldn't see the 60, and he didn't gamble on going for it. He's banking on Whitlock not getting this 145. Has he got it? Bull! Oh, that would have been a pearler! Never seen anybody go that way before. That would have been sensational.
Wow, I thought that was good. I really thought that was good at first. My eyes deceived me for a moment. And Van Gerwen, do you know what? I think he's a little bit relieved there.
I think if Whitlock had hit that, I think even Van Gerwen would have been tipping the old hat there. I love shots like that. Sometimes you've got to pick your moment and give it a crack. And he almost pulled off one of the best finishes we've ever seen.
Well. I said earlier, sometimes the crowd sometimes see what they want to see, what the brain wants to see. But yeah, just for a split second, I thought that was good. That's not good for Whitlock, and neither is that either.
74.
Yeah, good recovery with the final dart.
You ever been to an exhibition?
Yes.
Look, that's the kind of thing they do. See MVG doing all sorts of silly things. So you look at the standard of darts in this final, which has been absolutely sensational. But they're the kind of shots that the pros will try and pull off. But to do it in a European Tour final, that takes some steel.
Well, Van Gerwen may have to wait a little bit longer because Whitlock is down to a finish.
Nothing over 14 darts.
No, nothing at all. He's had an 11 darter. That was the pick of the bunch. That's his third 11 dart leg of the weekend.
Needed
Shame.
Another. Needed another.
That would have left tops. And again, he's smiling about it. He's playing it in a really good spirit here, Simon Whitlock. He's enjoying himself a little bit now. Now, this would be some way to round things off, but it ain't going to happen.
102.
Fancied that. He really did.
83.
To prolong the final and to stay in it.
Took the 83 out against Hop in his semi-final.
Oh, you can't do that when you've got 13s. Had a dart he couldn't use, and Van Gerwen's got 65 for it, tops for the title.
Double 10 for Michael Van Gerwen. And once again, it is an 8-3 reverse for Simon Whitlock in a European Tour final. And more significantly, it's a 30th European Tour title for Michael Van Gerwen on the eve of his 30th birthday on Thursday night, which he will celebrate in the Premier League in Birmingham. Another ton plus average for Michael Van Gerwen as well, for good measure. And once more, you just have to stand back, admire and applaud the greatest man in the game.